It's Song Talk Radio.
Welcome to Song Talk Radio, the show with songwriters talking to other songwriters about the craft of songwriting. We share tips, tools, and techniques, and together we all become better at writing songs. Dialing in from our Toronto headquarters, I'm Neil Modi, and my usual co-host Phil from St. John's, Newfoundland, is off getting his stacks of wax. So, it's just me with the solo with the guest tonight. For the rest of us, please send your comments and questions to at Song Talk Radio on Facebook or Instagram, or feedback at songtalk.ca for the email, and we'll share your thoughts on the show. And please visit songtalk.ca to see the show post for this episode, to find links to resources we mention, and to download lyric and chord sheets to follow along with the songs that we feature. Tonight, we're very happy to welcome Toronto-based singer-songwriter Emma Della Rossa to the show. Emma Della Rossa is a Toronto-based singer, songwriter, flutist, and educator. She's inspired by exploring the deeper level of seemingly ordinary experiences and expressing them musically. As a singer-songwriter, Emma's original music combines influences from indie pop, folk, and alt-pop genres, tied together with layers of vocal harmonies and introspective lyricism. Inspired by the vibrant talents in Toronto, she launched her self-produced podcast, Bedroom Studios Podcast, in 2023, featuring interviews with early career artists and musicians. She is the founder of Toronto Music Gals Network, a collective that aims to connect female-identifying artists, songwriters, and musicians in the Greater Toronto Area. Driven by a passion for collaboration and conveying powerful messages through music, Emma released her debut EP, Face the Music, in 2022. Her recent singles, Better in 2023, Someone I Adore 2024, and Worse 2025, highlight her growing independence as a producer and her continued artistic evolution. Welcome to Song Talk Radio, Emma Della Rossa.
Thanks for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Great to have you on the show. And we're going to get started here by taking a listen to Emma's new song, Worse. And remember, you can find the lyric sheet on the show post at songtalk.ca to follow along. And here we go.
You make it worse.
Wow, great track.
Thank you.
Yeah, I really dig it. It's got this really cool indie pop vibe to it. That I really like. Um, you made a very conscious decision to have a quiet chorus.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is a very cool thing. I mean, usually, for most pop songs, you want to be, belting out the chorus at the top of your lungs, kind of thing. But you made it, because it is one of these things where it's like, it's kind of a, an upbeat, boppy tune, but it's a very sad, dark theme.
Right. I've been told.
Yeah. Which I mean, which is a great way to do it. I mean, how many boppy songs are there with dark lyrics as opposed to the flip side around? Like, with happy lyrics and dark music, it doesn't really it doesn't quite jive as well, and it kind of lifts the curse, right? It kind of lifts up the darkness of the song and gives it kind of a cool vibe. So, why don't you tell us about your songwriting process? How do you usually do this? Your lyrics first, music first, or all at once, or how does it work for you?
Yeah, but this song, it was a really interesting experience for me because how I wrote Worse was so different from how I usually write, and I think that's it comes across in the song because it sounds very different from my other songs. I usually am like I write pretty intuitively. Since I write so often, I can kind of rely on like feeling inspired most, like often. So when I feel that kind of intuition of like, oh, okay, I think something's going to come out, then I go to my instrument or my piano or my guitar, and something usually does come out. It's almost always starts by like an initial spark of like a lyric idea or a melody idea or a concept or even just a vibe. And then I'll just play it through, and some parts will emerge and I'll keep them. And then other parts, it's just gibberish. And I'll use that as a starting point and build from there.
Okay.
But I was going to say with Worse, it was just like a very clear concept idea that to my friend said to me after a show, it would be so funny if you made a song called Worse since you have a song called Better. And so I used the song Better as almost like a template for like, how can I take bits and pieces of this song and either make it the opposite or change it up a little bit to create something new from there.
Oh, okay. That's kind of an interesting. And do they both appear on the same EP? Is that like a thematic thing going on?
It's coming soon.
Coming soon. Yes. Okay. Yeah. That's kind of a neat thing. So normally you sort of get a spark of an idea and kind of muddle through something. And do you normally like turn your voice recorder on your phone on and just capture all that stuff, all the random bits and pieces? Yeah.
Yeah. And for when I wrote Worse, I wrote it in the middle of the night, and I live with like my family and my siblings. So if I'm writing a song in the middle of the night, I can't be singing out in the now I can because I'm in a different space in the house, but I couldn't make any noise. So I was actually plugged in my laptop to my keyboard, and I had my headphones on, and so I was recording instead of singing the melodies and just having it come out organically like I normally do. When I would think of the melody in my head, I would play it on the piano and kind of write it that way. And I think the part of the reason why it ended up being a self-produced song is because I had all of these layers of the piano melodies and the different piano parts already recorded into my DAW. And then I was able to kind of start building the production from the beginning. Even like the fact that it's such a groovy song, I think came from the fact that I started with a click track and I was like, I don't like this. I don't want to listen to a click track while I'm writing this. I'm just going to put a kick drum on it instead. And I'm like, I kind of like that. I'm going to keep it.
Right. Yeah. That sometimes happens like that. You just put something that you think is going to be temporary, but then it ends up being the glue that sort of holds it all together. Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's very cool. So I mean, if you were to compare this song to your song Better, how did you make the opposites? Was it largely lyrical things, but are the structures of the songs too the same, or what's the similarities and differences between the two?
Yeah. Oh, I'm so excited to talk about this because it's like I'm such a nerd about it.
Yeah.
The thesis of my song "Better" is you make it better, right? It was kind of about being at the beginning of a relationship and being afraid to jump in and being really hopeful about it,
Mhm.
and kind of realizing like you can trust people. Just sometimes it does work out and people make it better, and then the relationship didn't work out. So it was very fitting. I'm like, okay, if the main message of better is you make it better, then the main message of worse should be you make it worse.
Mhm.
And that was that kind of the starting point. Also in my song "Better," I have this kind of motif, and it's just two notes. It just goes do 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 do, and so I also started with just those two notes. I'm like, okay, how can I make this a little bit more interesting or a bit different? And I changed up the rhythm. So in worse, it goes do 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 do, and that's
Mm.
throughout the entire song.
Right.
Uh, for that starting point, all of the reverse sounds in the intro of worse are some bits and pieces of
Ah,
the instrumental of Better.
right. Gotcha. Gotcha.
Yeah, and so I
Okay.
reversed them, had them at the beginning. What else? The bridge of Worse is the exact like, chorus melody of Better.
Oh,
Uh,
really?
yeah,
Okay.
but it kind of the words are emphasized at slightly differently, so it's
But are
not
the lyrics the same?
exactly. Did change some of the lyrics, and it's funny when people say like that it's such a sad song because for
Yeah.
me it doesn't like yes it is a sad
Yeah.
song, but in the bridge I like for me it feels more empowering
Hmm.
because it's like it's I don't know I find that for because I'm not a very confrontational person,
Mm.
so and I I forgive and forget very quickly, so I'm if I feel like anger or resentment, I'm able to express that through my music. And so when I write a song that's a little bit more sassy or angry, it's it's empowering for me because I'm
Hmm.
able to kind of like step into myself and portray this character of like somebody very confidently telling someone off. And I
Hmm.
don't usually I wouldn't do that, and I just don't really see the point of doing that in real life. But
Yeah.
it's like an outlet to express that. Uh, and on the bridge, I changed some of the lyrics to in Better. It's I don't know what's happening, and it's like kind of relying on another person to make you feel better. But in my song Worse, it's saying like I know better, I know
Hmm.
now, I've learned, I'm brand new, things like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Well, that's very
Yeah.
clever. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah. Okay. I mean, for the most part, it's a sad song, but the bridge is
Yeah.
what elevates it, right? Which again goes back to that idea of the quiet chorus. Because if your chorus
Hmm.
was big, then your bridge wouldn't feel as anthemic and as cathartic as it does. You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
We
Because
really played around with that in the production process of like trying to figure out the right balance.
yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, and it's in the writing process too. Like, you make it worse.
Hmm.
You're almost whispering it, right?
Yeah.
It's a very small thing. It's kind of funny though, when I was listening to it, you know how if you repeat the same word over and over again, even just speaking, it starts to sound wrong
Yeah.
after a
Yep.
while. And it occurred to me that it's really interesting how, you make it worse. And you were very careful about emphasizing that last S just enough, right,
Hmm.
to articulate it properly, right? Because otherwise, because when you start paying more attention to just the final S sound, then the whole thing just starts sounding wrong. It doesn't
Yeah.
sound like a word anymore.
Yeah. No, that was really intentional because I knew from the beginning that I wanted in some parts to put a little bit of a delay on it, and so I wanted to make sure like the S was lined up on the beat so that when I added the
Yes.
delay, it wouldn't just sound like
Yeah, yeah,
everywhere.
yeah, yeah. Very cool. Yeah, yeah, because every instance of You Make It Worse is exactly the same melody, I think,
Yeah.
except for the seventh one or something like that, or sixth
Hmm.
or seventh one. You
Yeah.
change it a little bit rhythmically and then
Yeah.
come back to it.
There was actually a really funny story about that.
Oh yeah?
Since I wrote the melodies by playing it onto my piano, when I later on I went to quantize it,
Mm.
and so that rhythmic change was because it quantized slightly off the grid, and I was like, I kind of like that. Like, I think it needed that, just like something different so that it didn't get too repetitive.
Right.
But that was where that idea
So originally you wanted all 8 to be exactly the same.
I don't know if that's what I wanted, or it was just kind of what happened at the beginning before I had a chance to really think about it. That was the original idea. And then as I was refining it, it just kind of happened by accident. And I was like, that's what it needed.
Yeah. That's very cool. That's a neat, happy accidents in the studio are always the funnest thing. So you sound like you're a very production-oriented songwriter. Is that?
I'm getting there. It didn't start out like that just because I didn't know how to produce. Right. But
so you've always just sat down with a guitar, piano, and just written a song, right? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. The more I learn about it, though, the more it's really influencing even when I'm still sitting down with a instrument and I don't have my laptop or anything. It's as I'm writing, I'm thinking about what I might do in the production process, and I think it's guiding my songwriting a lot more now.
How so? Can you give example of what might have shifted in that mindset?
I think a lot of arrangements things, and thinking about like what instruments could I add to this, or what type of groove. Playing with a band has also helped in that way, where as I'm writing, I think about how it might sound as a final product. Whereas before, when it was like just me and an instrument and I couldn't record myself and I didn't have other people to play with, it was like the piano vocal demo or the guitar and vocal, but was the final version. And I didn't have that vision to see beyond it at that point.
Not that there's anything wrong with that. I mean, guitar vocal, piano vocal is perfectly.
I love it when like it's very stripped back stuff. It's amazing. Yeah.
I was on a forum years ago where people would put up their songs for review and stuff like that, and every once in a while they would put up the rules for this month's reviews or something. It has to be a 1+1. They always call it a 1+1, meaning one instrument and one vocal. That's it. You weren't allowed to have any other instruments in your in your production or your arrangement. So it's definitely a thing. So you were saying like you did it a certain way before you had a chance to think about it. So how much rethinking did you do with Worse? Was there a lot of editing?
A lot, yeah. It was one of those songs that when I wrote it, I was really excited about it. And like some songs, it's not like that. Sometimes it takes a while for me to fall in love with the song, or I'll love it at the beginning and then I'll be like, oh, terrible. And then I might fall in love with it again, or I might just scrap it. But with this one, it was really stuck in my head. I was really excited about it, but I didn't have a lot of time to work on it after that initial night. And so I had just my really awful recording of it, where my voice was like tired from the night before, and I would listen to it on the bus, and it was just like an obsession. It was constantly on my mind, and I was really trying to refine the lyrics, especially. I think that's where most of the editing came in. I wanted to make, I think with this song, with the production and with the lyrics and everything about it, I was really thinking about the listener and their attention and how I wanted to guide that attention as they listen to the song. So like a lot of the dynamics in it, of like getting quieter in the chorus and the way things build, was really like kind of focused on the experience I wanted the listener to have. And I also wanted the lyrics to be fun to sing. Like I had a conversation with my co-producer, and he was like making a suggestion, because there's like one line that was in past tense and one that was in present tense. And like I said to him, like I totally agree with what you're saying, but if I change it, it's gonna be awkward to sing. It's not gonna roll off the tongue in the same way. So I decided to keep it the way it was.
I didn't notice that. I didn't notice the tense change if it's in there.
Yeah, I think it was like, it wasn't a big enough thing for it to be super noticeable.
Right.
So
right.
like if it was, then I might have changed it. But,
right. Yeah. Fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Yeah. It's always a balancing act between performance niceness, or even just melodic niceness or hook, whatever, versus being coherent.
Yeah.
Right.
Sometimes it doesn't have to make sense.
No, not always. And sometimes the coolest hooks are not necessarily nonsense, but they're not quite grammatically correct, or they're not quite. I went through that on my latest song. I got a lot of flack for putting the emphasis on the wrong syllable, but it made for a better hook. And I'm like, I'm gonna keep it. But that's really cool. Yeah, and the whole process of you taking the inspiration from your earlier song, like that's something that's really interesting from a creative standpoint, because like you say, like if your normal mode is just muddling about and seeing what comes up, like you're literally faced with a blank page. You can do literally anything. And I personally, I find that most of the time that I get to a certain point with that, but then it just becomes like a little ditty that sits there and I don't do anything with it. But the songs that I write that are already filtered in some way, that you've already sort of put some parameters on it. So in your case, you're taking some cues from Better, and you're putting them into this, right? Did you find that? I mean, you said it was a very enjoyable song to write. Do you think that was part of why it was fun to write, because it was a sort of mirror of that other thing and a very different process?
Yeah, I think definitely I think the reason why I finished the song was because I had something already existing to go off of. Because there were definitely points where I was like, okay, I have these two pieces. Like, how do I connect them? Like, where do I go from here? Like, I don't know what to do. And then, but instead of being stuck, I was like, okay, let me go back to this song. Let me see what I can take. I think even for the verse, I think it's a very similar melody. I just I kind of started by going between the same two notes that I did in Better, and then built it up from there. So it's not as recognizable, but yeah, it definitely helped with the feeling of being blocked or not knowing where to go next.
Yeah, I think so, because it gives you some focus. It gives you some kind of direction. Right. I don't know. Have you ever engaged in songwriting challenges?
A little bit. Not so much. I've done some lyric writing. Like, I have a book with a bunch of lyric writing exercises, or not even exercises, but just things that you can try.
Okay.
Like descriptive writing and things like that.
Okay.
But
I mean, like an organized group thing where you're given some kind of an assignment and a deadline.
No, but that sounds really cool.
Yeah. We do one every year on this podcast. We're very close to launching our challenge for this year soon.
That's so cool.
Last year we did write a holiday song, and we always invite our listeners as well to participate and submit their songs, and we showcase them on the podcast, and that was great fun. But as well, I'm also part of this group called the At Home Songwriting Group, which is there's a fellow in Minneapolis, in Minnesota, Chad Shank, who's it's actually a Berklee School of Music instructor as well now, and he started this group and channel, and he offers these songwriting challenges every once in a while. A couple I did last year was write a song in a day. And he had a couple of parameters, and then another one where we had a month to write it. He had 7 different rules that you had to abide by. No perfect rhymes, and you had to use a 1-4-5 progression somewhere in the song, and you had to,
those are so cool, because it's kind of takes you out of your normal way of writing.
Yeah.
And I find I find you end up surprising yourself.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I think that's just it. It takes you out of your comfort zone. It puts you someplace where you wouldn't normally go, and it's great fun too to just compare with everyone else, because everyone else comes up with a completely different answer. You'll start with the same prompt, but of course everyone generates something completely different from there, which is pretty cool. So yeah, if you stay tuned to our podcast, you'll be able to take part in ours.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
If you're down for it, we usually give our
Always.
listeners like months to work on it. We talk about it. We, provide a bunch of resources and have a future episode where we, talk about laying it down and that sort of thing. And it's usually one, the year before we did do a song in an unusual mode, like a different scale. Year before that was right from a title, I think, and we got the title from our listeners, and we did one year where it was write a song where the chord progression never changes, that sort of thing. So yeah, it's really interesting stuff. But so how many songs are on your EP then?
It's gonna be, wait, let me count them. 1, 2, 3. It's gonna be 5. This EP, I find like it was kind of built up in as it went, I guess. Wait, that's a bad way of describing it. Like as opposed to having like everything written and produced and being like, I'm going to release this as an EP and then releasing all the singles. It was, I got funding from my school a couple of years ago to do 2 songs, and I did my song Better and Someone I Adore. And those were originally going to be just like 2 singles I released. But then now I'm like self-producing a lot of stuff now. So I have 3 more songs. And since there is a connection between Better and Worse, and the songs were kind of written out of the same time, I'm going to release it as an EP. So it's a bit strange that because I'm kind of deciding on this project in the middle, having our 2 things already released, but it does all fit together. I promise.
Yeah, that's cool. Are you an album person, or are you a single?
I don't have enough money to be an album person.
No, I mean in your listening, do you listen to albums, or do you favor albums, or are you shuffling on Spotify all the time?
It's kind of a combination of both. I'm the kind of person where when I find like a really depressing indie pop song that gets me in my feels, I will listen to only that for like a good 2 or 3 days on loop. But I think also the experience of listening to an album is just like brings you into a world. So on my commutes, sometimes I'll pick an album and listen all the way through.
Right on.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it seems it's kind of, I don't know, it's kind of dying a slow death, but every once in a while you hear about, an interesting thematically tied together thing. So it's cool that you're tying 2 of the songs together.
Yeah. I find my songs have themes that connect each other, like just regardless, because I write so much from my personal experiences. And I find, I don't know about like other songwriters, but for me, I find that my songwriting reveals so much of my subconscious and what's going on subconsciously, and I don't even intend it to be this way. But when I look back at songs I've written in a certain period, I notice like a lot of lyrical similarities and similarities with like the kinds of things I'm writing about. And so it's almost like a diary if like kind of look at all my songs chronologically.
Yeah. That's cool. And you getting decent reception from your peers, your fans? I
think so. People like they like it, which is really nice to hear. It feels like it's like my baby. It was like such a labor of love. It's like my first release that I had like a really big part in producing. So it's like really fun to like when I'm in the room and someone's listening to it, to see their reaction and they're nodding their head and it seems that they enjoy it. It's kind of all you can really ask for.
Yeah.
So I'm really grateful.
That's cool. That's great. Yeah. And you performing these live with the band, you said, right?
Yes. Oh my gosh. So okay, wait, I'm getting too excited. I haven't done a lot of live shows because I've been working on recording. And I haven't done a lot with my band because, it's hard to coordinate, but we did play this song live in January and it was so much fun. I feel like for Worse, I've performed it acoustically on the piano, but because of like just because it's an upbeat song and there's, like the percussion, like the drum kind of drives it.
Yeah.
Playing it with a band was so much fun. And we had a piano player, and when I wrote the song, since I was recording myself and layering it, it started out as a piano part that was like could be a 4 hands piano situation.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew from the moment I wrote it, I'm like, when I play it live one day with the band, I want to do that as the intro. And we did. So
wow.
like I did. So he was playing kind of part of those layers, and then I played the other 2 parts, so it's 4 hands piano, and then I walked across the stage to the mic and started singing.
Oh my God, that's awesome.
It was
awesome.
So much fun.
Wow.
Yeah.
That sounds like fun. Yeah. So that's a cool little bit.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, that's great. So what's the plan for the EP release then? Like, do you have a date?
Not yet. I'm in teachers college right now, so I'm just like I'm almost done that degree. And so I've been working on the last 2 songs. Those 2 are going to be completely self-produced, and they're almost there. They're almost done. Right now, I'm just trying to get some of the live instruments recorded. So I'm hoping to have the next one out closer to the beginning of the summer, and then the last song from that group in the fall.
Nice.
Yeah.
And you planning on like CD, vinyl, or is it just purely digital?
It's just going to be digital. Yeah.
I'm
still working on it, but who knows? Maybe one day.
Who knows for next time? Maybe press some vinyl.
That would be cool.
Any of your contemporary, any of your friends and stuff listening to vinyl? Do they buy vinyl? Do you buy vinyl?
I have one of the mini record players, and I do have a couple of albums, but I do actually know some people. I know someone who collects cassettes and vinyls. I know 2 people who do.
You gotta be kidding me.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I don't have I don't know what's the word, but some people are like very, very like into it and excited about it, and I think it's really cool, but I'm not like passionate about it. So I do have some, but I wouldn't say I collect them.
Yeah, fair enough.
But they are really cool.
Yeah, it's kind of neat. I mean, it's a throwback. I mean, I'm old enough that I remember doing, I did many mixtapes back in the day, like the real thing. Right? But very, very cool. All right. Yeah. That's amazing. Looking forward to hearing some more of that stuff. Okay, I believe that is the band there. So I believe we've reached the end of our show. I think that's all the time we have on Song Talk Radio. Special thanks to Emma Della Rossa. And where can our listeners find out more about you and hear some more songs?
You can Google my name. Something will show up, or you can go to my website, emmadelarosa.com.
Perfect. All right, we'll put a link to that on the show post for this episode. And we want to hear from you too, so please send your comments on Facebook or Instagram to @SongTalkRadio, or send us an email, feedback@songtalk.ca. And be sure to check out our YouTube channel for live performance videos and full episodes. And subscribe today to the Song Talk Radio podcast on your favorite podcast provider. You can find links to all the products, books, and web services we mentioned on the show on our resources page on the website. And please join us at our next monthly Song Talk meetup. Whether you're in Toronto for our in-person meetups or anywhere in the world for our online meetups, it's free to join on meetup.com and free to attend the meetup, bring a song and a lyric sheet, and get constructive feedback from other songwriters. Stop by songtalk.ca for the link. You can follow me at neilmodi.com. If Phil were here, he would say you can follow him at philemery.ca. And Emma, what's your favorite social media channel? Where do you post the most?
On Instagram.
Instagram, perfect. Yeah. And be sure to stop by the website, songtalk.ca, to browse past shows and find out how you can be a guest. Thanks for tuning in, everyone, and keep on writing.